Hey everyone, Marlon Wesh here with Wesh Financial. I just want to welcome you to today's Facebook Live event. This event is to be a lot different than the other lives that I do, mainly because of all that's been happening over the past week, past couple of days. Um, it's There are no words. There are no words to describe pain, the agony, um, the re-traumatization. Um, but work needs to be done. And I wanted to open this live to everyone. I usually only do these Facebook Lives with our private online group. And I want to open this up to everyone because there's information in here that I want to get into the hands of as many people as possible. Over the past couple of days, and I've had the time to reflect, and I have ideas of what I think needs to happen in order to move the needle of justice forward. But I'm not here to talk about that today. And the reason being is there are a lot of you out there that also have ideas about how to move the needle of justice forward. And I believe that as we come together as a collective, but working within our individual zones of genius, that we will be able to leverage a collective power to see the change that we want to see in the world. So that being said, I'm going to share my screen here. Like I said, I want to make sure that this information goes to as many people as possible. And I want this to be an interactive information session. So feel free to, if you have questions and comments, go ahead and drop that into the comment section on Facebook. And please share the live with your social networks, whether it's here on Facebook or on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Feel free to share this information session. Send in your comments in the Facebook comment box, or you can also tweet us at Wesh Financial. And so throughout this live, I'll be on Twitter just checking for any comments or questions that have come through, and I'll try to get through this, get through all of that on this session. My main goal today is really just to share with you some tools and strategies that you can use and leverage, so you can leverage the resources that you have at your disposal to effect the change that you wish to see in the world. If we can understand a couple of strategies and how we can do that, I think we'll be better off, and you'll feel a little more empowered about what you're actually able to do with what you have. Just like I do with individuals and families. If you've seen any of my lives before, you know that I'm big, and I say over and over again that before you start any strategic planning, before you talk about strategies, before you even delve into the how you're going to do something, that it's so vital and so important that you're purpose-driven and outcome-focused. And the same is true when you're looking at charitable or philanthropic contributions. You've got to be really clear on your purpose and what the outcome that you want, what that exactly looks like, okay? So specifically, as we're talking about charitable giving or supporting organizations that you care about, you want to ask yourself the question, what is my contribution for, right? Like, is the purpose of my contribution to provide emergency relief, emergency support? Maybe there are people on the front lines right now that need specific resources, and they need it today, right now, and they don't have the luxury to work through the IRS system to secure a gift that will help their cause, right? Or perhaps the purpose of the gift, the purpose of your support is to leverage your resources to fund sustained advocacy. So if you answer those two questions, what that will do, that will inform the appropriate giving mix. And I'm going to explain further what I mean by a giving mix. But just like in our personal portfolio, we look at our goals, look at when we want to achieve it by, when we need the revenues from our investments, and that informs the type of investments that we use, whether it's cash, whether we keep money in cash, or whether we keep it in highly liquid assets, or maybe more risky investments that may need some more time in our portfolio before we can expect to enjoy any type of revenue source from it. The goals that we set will inform the way that we go about in investing. The same is true with your charitable giving, with your philanthropy. Purpose plus your desired outcome will inform your appropriate giving mix. Now, I want to just state that this presentation that you're seeing today is kind of thrown together. I from a lot of different sources. So this is not a fancy slide deck that you'll see. You will see no animations. There's a lot of raw information that I frankly haven't had the time to go over and print out and to clean out to make it really succinct and brief and how I would like it to. So work with me here. There's a lot of information here. A lot of it gets heavy, especially towards the end as strategies get more complicated. Also, another thing I want to note is that when I originally made this presentation, it was for a population that was looking to mitigate tax liability, right? So a lot of the strategies you'll see is very tax focused, and how the individual, the donor, can use these strategies to reduce, avoid, or eliminate certain tax liabilities. That's not to say, regardless of the tax focus, these strategies still have immense impact on the organizations that use them to fund their missions. That being said, let's move on. Let's talk about two charitable giving myths that really abound, and that's the reason why I want to do this today. Myth one is that most people feel that they could never make a transformational gift to charity. They look at their income, what they bring in, every 2 weeks, and they just don't see how they can make a transformational gift when, every other month they get something in their alma mater's newsletter, or they see something in a newspaper somewhere about this wealthy individual that may have left millions and millions and millions of dollars to an organization, and you think that, wow, I could never do something like that. The reality is this: writing a large check for a charitable gift is not the only way to have an impact. The fact of the matter is, and I'm going to pull back the curtain on charitable giving a little bit, because when you see organizations announce a charitable gift, like a significant charitable gift, somebody left millions of dollars, somebody left, $500,000 for a scholarship or what have you, the organization is announcing the value of the gift. What the organization is not necessarily doing is announcing the structure of the gift. And we're going to talk about this for this entire live, the structuring of different gifts. The value of the gift does not equate a check written out for that sum. So I want you to really take that and really understand that. If you see somebody, standing up with a check that says $2 million donated to so-and-so, is it possible that that person wrote a check for that much? Absolutely. But it's more likely that there was a blend of giving of assets and a blend of cash, as well as a structured payment towards that organization. And what do I mean a structured payment? Well, for example, if I, as a donor, decided that I wanted to donate $100,000 to, an organization for scholarship money for students, right? Typically, typically, what I would do is structure an agreement with the organization that over the course of 4 years, that every year I would write a check for $25,000 until that pledge of $100,000 is paid. That's how a lot of philanthropy happens. It's not just a big check that's written all the time. It's usually a several year commitment to a significant gift that allows people that have decent cash flow. They may not have like $500,000 sitting in the bank right now, ready to write a check for, right? So it allows people with significant cash flow to make significant gifts without jeopardizing, their day-to-day living. So myth one, that you can never make a transformational gift to charity, it's not true. And it's not true because, let me see here. I don't know if I think it's in a later slide, but I'll say it now. And then when it pops up again, I'll say it again. It's not true because 91% of the wealth that an individual holds is not in it's different assets. I'm going to talk through this slide. Myth number two is that there's no real benefit of making charitable gifts. The truth is that the federal government encourages charitable giving because it takes the burden off of governance. It's just the burden of governance from a governmental agency to community groups to support each other, right? So they give incentives to you and I to give to charitable organizations by allowing us to take tax deductions, allowing us to forego tax liabilities depending on the gift, right? And so myth one is that you can never make a transformational gift to charity. It's not true. You can. You don't have to be an myth two is that, well, besides the fact that there are immense emotional, psychological, and actually health benefits of giving, there's also financial benefits of giving. And we're going to talk about that as well. So I want to talk about gift planning as a whole. Gift planning really is able to transform organizations because while a unsolicited gift of however, whether it's $25, whether it's $1,000, $5,000, what have you, an unsolicited gift coming in, while that is always welcomed by organizations, for them to be effective, they have a machine, they have a governance machines in order to carry out their mission. And if they're unable to project what revenue that they're getting in the future in order to fund that mission, it really affects their ability to be effective. So when nonprofits start to cultivate gifts, asset gifts, they begin to focus on future revenues, and they know that trending towards soliciting or receiving gifts that will take care of tomorrow will ultimately take care of their operational costs today. Now, I just want to bring your attention to something extremely, extremely important, especially in, especially since our conversation is probably skewed a little away from a typical charitable organization. So a typical charitable organization falls under IRS Code Section 501c3, okay? So this is your most common charitable organization designation. It's an organization that's tax exempt, and contributions to these organizations are tax deductible. Here's the thing with 501c3s though. 501c3s aren't allowed to lobby, okay? Well, they are allowed to lobby, but it's a really great area. What they do is engage in advocacy. And advocacy is more education, information spreading, but they aren't actually allowed to put their thumb and apply pressure on individuals that can legislate change. They can do a little bit of it, but they risk losing their tax exempt status and then also being fined if they lobby what's called excessively. And the thing is that lobbying excessively is not clearly defined by the IRS. So it's just something that 501c3s try to stay away from. Now, a 501c4 is what's called a social welfare organization. A lot of C3s are starting to change their designation to C4s for the reason of lobbying, right? So while 501c4s are tax exempt entities, contributions that you and I make to 501c4s are not tax deductible to us. Okay. Now, a fun fact is that getting a tax exemption, getting a tax deduction, it's great. Everybody likes to not have to pay taxes, but what's really heartwarming is the fact that while donors and people that are passionate about philanthropy, while taxes play a part in their decision, it is not the overwhelming reason why people give. And I think that's why 501c4s, even though contributions to them are not tax deductible, they still are beginning to flourish because people give because they want to see change, right? So 501c4s, they can engage in lobbying, not only advocacy and spreading information, but they can put pressure on specific legislators or legislative bodies, specific entities to pass laws, legislation, policies. And a lot of organizations are switching over to this designation in order to be able to do so. I know the NAACP, I think about 2 years ago, switched from being a 501c3 to a 501c4. So now they're able to directly lobby for policy change, legislative change, whereas before there was a limit to what they were able to do. And you see the difference of power and what what's three. For example, the NRA, the National Rifle Association, is a 501c4, and that's why they're able to apply all their resources to lobby for legislation and policies that are close to them and to their constituency. Okay. Gift planning also, it transforms the donors. The act of being proactive with your charitable giving, what that's able to do is really, it empowers donors to become stewards. They begin to look at all their assets that they have in their states, and they realize that they are stewards of so much more than just cash. They're stewards of their time, they're stewards of their influence, they're stewards of their assets. They start to understand that to them, and they find great empowerment in seeing all the options that are available to them in order to make transformative gifts. And it really allows donors to put their money where their mouths are, and really move their influence and their passion where they want to go, instead of the big black hole of government that we know. Here's the stat that I was talking about now. 91% of the average American's wealth is made up of the assets they own, while only 9% is actual liquid cash. And it's really transformational moment when a donor realizes that they can produce exponentially greater impact in the areas they care about simply by giving out of the 91% of what they have instead of just the 9%. Does that make sense, guys? If you guys have any questions up to date, just let me know. Again, just drop it in the queue. Drop it in the queue or tweet at West Financial. I'll be pausing every once in a while to see what I got going on here. So I actually can't see who you are. on the Facebook chat. This program, I'm using StreamYard, and so it just says Facebook user. It doesn't say who's actually commenting. But Facebook user says house rich, money poor. It's a little more complicated than that. It's where that a lot of affluent individuals, so a lot of smart investors have been able, have realized the secret to creating a revenue source, but storing their wealth in assets versus in to be honest, fiat currency, right? So moving on. Benefits of gift planning. So before we talked about myth 2, the fact that a lot of people believe that there's no benefit to them of giving. Well, some of the benefits is that you can actually increase current income for yourself as a donor, or you can increase income for heirs. You can reduce income and or your state taxes. You can avoid or you can reduce capital gains tax, and you can actually pass assets to family members at a reduced tax cost. If you're a business owner, it can help you structure you exiting your business in a tax efficient way. And of course, using gift planning, you can make significant donations to nonprofit organizations. So let's talk about gift planning. And when I'm talking about gift planning, I'm talking about a proactive, a strategic approach to giving charitably. There are 3 main areas of gift planning. You've got outright gifts, gifts that pay income to the donor, and gifts that protect the donor's assets. Now, with all of these gifts, it's a scaffolding of complexity, right? And not all of these strategies are appropriate for most donors. The one strategy that we know that everybody can do is give cash. There are other strategies that build on top of that in varying degrees are either very easy to do or more complicated or more appropriate for someone at a specific wealth level. And we'll go into that as we continue on. But the 3 areas of gift planning: outright gifts, gifts that pay income to the donor, and gifts that protect a donor's asset. So when we talk about gifts, we're talking about property, right? The property that we have that we're giving to a charitable organization. And there are 2 forms of property. You've got tangible property. That's property you can touch, feel, and see. And you have intangible property. Tangible property, we're talking about real estate, boats, automobiles, equipment, jewelry, furniture, your coin collection, and it goes on. They're physical, tangible property. You can pick it up, move it, you can see it, and it holds value of its own. It's not just representative of value. Now, intangible property is property that does not have value in and of itself, right? But it represents value. I'm talking about your securities, your stocks and your bonds. I'm talking about bank accounts, investment accounts, brokerage accounts, your insurance policies, pensions, 401ks, all represent intangible forms of property. Now, outright gifts are also called simple gifts. And they're called simple gifts because, quite simple, they're simple to give. So the most simple of which is what's called a bequest. A bequest is a gift that's made through your will or a living trust, and it's the most popular planned gift, which means you have your will or your codicil, and you write a statement that says, I leave my house, my bank account, my this, my whatever, my Beanie Baby collection, I leave it to XYZ charity, right? A bequest is usually a set dollar amount or a percentage of a donor's estate, and it goes to the nonprofit only after the donor's death. Most bequests in the US into 60,000 requests that are well into the 7 figures and above, and those ones usually make the news. But this is how it works, right? There's the donor in their will or the codicil that modifies their will leaves a percentage of their estate to a qualified charity. And then the estate of the donor's estate will receive a tax deduction for the full fair market value of the gift that they left to the charity. Now, again, I just want to reiterate that it's very important that you know what kind of charity you're giving to, what kind of organization you're giving to. If it's a 501c3, these rules apply, these deductions apply, that these are tax privileges, that benefits that you're able to enjoy. If you're giving to a 501c4, you will not enjoy those tax privileges, for the simple reason that 501c4s are allowed to lobby for legislative change. So because they're so simple, they're the most popular gifts. And this type of gift is appropriate for any type of donor, whether you're single, you're married, you're child-free, you have multi-generational wealth or not. It's simple, because you just set a dollar amount or a percentage of what you want to give continued support to the organization you want to support. The next easiest type of gifts is a gift of appreciated securities. So public traded securities, that appreciated securities that a donor has owned for over a year, you can gift that to a nonprofit organization. The reason why a lot of people may do this is because, obviously, if you start investing, you've invested in a company and their stock has grown significantly. Once you take that investment out, you're exposed to tax liability, right? And so if you want to forego that tax liability, easiest way to do that is to gift the appreciated security to a charity. And it's an easy gift to make. You literally call your brokerage account and have them wire the money over. So it's a very simple gift to make. And for people that are donating to 501c3s, you get that tax preferential treatment, as well as the impact that goes to the charitable organization. Again, the schematic right here, the donor gives to the gift of appreciated security to the qualified charity, and then in turn, they enjoy income tax deduction as well as capital gains that they get to avoid. And the reason why they can avoid that is because once the charity gets, this is a really important point. What you do not want to do is to sell any securities and then give cash to the charity. You will get hit with the taxes if you do that. What you want to do is outright give the charity the shares that you own. You transfer the shares to the charity's name. The charity will then sell the shares because they are tax exempt. They will not receive any tax liability, and they're able to use the full measure of that gift to their operating needs. Does that make sense, guys? Just gonna pop over here again to make sure that it's all hunky-dory over in Twitter. Looks like we're good, we're up to date. Okay, next. Donors, yes, this is most appropriate for donors who have highly appreciated securities. They've held them for a couple of years. They don't plan on selling the stocks because they're trying to avoid that tax issue. Or another way they do that is they use these appreciated securities to fund what is called a charitable gift annuity. And we'll talk about that later. But the charitable gift annuity is a charitable gift that actually pays income to the donor while supporting the charity itself. The next really, really, really simple gift that you can give is out of life insurance, okay? A donor can designate, just like you can designate your husband, your wife, your kids, whoever, Tom, Dick, and Harry, a beneficiary on your life insurance policy. You can do the same thing for a charitable organization. And what happens is, when you're no longer with us, the nonprofit receives the proceeds that come from the life insurance policy. Just like life insurance is the easiest, not only the easiest, but the most cost-efficient way to create significant wealth from one generation to the immediate next generation, it is a significant way to support a charitable organization. Because, you know, what really happens with life insurance is that with the premium that you pay monthly, quarterly, yearly, what have you, that premium affords you exponentially more than what you could potentially save on your own, right? And they're able to do that because they're gathering premiums from a big pool of payers, right? That's why you can spend, $25 a month and have a policy for $500,000, depending on your health, right, or your age. That's why you're able to do that. So just like you can significantly transfer wealth to your family, your immediate next generation through life insurance, you can make a significant gift to a charitable organization by naming them the beneficiary of your life insurance policy. It works the same, just like with your will. You put them in there in that beneficiary spot, XYZ charity, and when your state is settled, they get the proceeds, and your state gets a deduction value of the fair market value of the policy that was given to the qualified charity. And this is really the most appropriate for donors who have policies that are paid up, donors that don't want to affect their current cash flow, right? Maybe they're just unable right now to make a significant gift, but with the life insurance policy, they could literally make $1 million gift and make $50,000 a year, but they have that policy, and now they're able to make a gift in the 7 figures. It's really amazing on what you can do with life insurance. Now, this is something, I'm a wealth advisor first, so you really want to look at this in your greater wealth strategy, right? Obviously, the purpose of life insurance, as it should be, is to really replace your income in the event that you die, and make sure that the people that depend on you don't suffer gratuitously more than the emotional loss of you. And so you want to make sure that obviously your 4 walls are taken care of, the people that depend on you are taken care of. But if they are indeed taken care of, and perhaps you have kids that have great jobs and they're doing well and they don't depend on you, and you're not depending on them to take care of you, they might not need to be a beneficiary of your life insurance policy anymore. And it might make sense for you to use that wealth generation machine to go ahead and make a transformative gift to a charitable organization of your choice. The next one is gift of real estate. A donor can make a gift of real estate to a nonprofit and remove a large taxable asset from their estate, and benefit by getting that tax deduction equal to the appraised value of the property. And also you get to avoid capital gains tax on the transfer. There are a couple things that can happen, right? The nonprofit can take the gift of real estate. It can be your home, it can be your farm, it can be your business building, what have you. It could be a rental property you have, it can be a vacation property you have. But the charitable organization can take that property and they can either sell it and then use the proceeds from the sale of the property for their operating costs, or if it makes sense for them to hold on to the property because it helps them in their mission in some way, maybe they need office space, maybe what have you, that they have the choice to do that, right? I was in a meeting with a group of major gift fundraisers, and there was a woman, I believe she's the director of planned giving at UPenn, I believe. And she told the story of a farmer who owned a working farm, and his kids were all grown up. They were professional, they made great money, and they had all come home for Christmas, and he was looking at them. He was so proud of the lives that they were living, how successful they were. And he turned around and he said, guys, one day this farm is gonna be all yours. And they looked at him like, Dad, I have no interest in running this farm. And he was like, he was hurt. He was like, well, this is my life's work. What am I going to do? Like, my kids don't want to take up the mantle of running this farm. What do I do? So he actually gifted his farm to the University of Pennsylvania millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of farm acreage and equipment and everything like that. And so it's so gifts of real estate, just like we said before, that 91% of wealth that Americans hold are held in assets and not cash. Real estate is the big part of that 91%. Most of our net worth is held in real estate. So it's a really it's a large asset that can be gifted. Especially if your kids don't want to have to deal with it, don't want to have to deal with like selling it after you're gone and all of that. You just give it away. Now, not all organizations are equipped to handle a gift of rate, and some may actually say no because they are not equipped to do it. Like I said, some of these strategies start laddering into the more complex area. Real estate is one of those strategies that can be extremely simple or it can be extremely complex. And it's up to the organization to decide whether they have the resources to even receive a gift like that, even though it could mean millions and millions of dollars in revenue for that organization. But there are ways around it, and we're going to talk about that later. And so, yes, another schematic: donor gives real estate to charity. Charity gets to keep it or sell it, uses the funds for their operating costs. Owners, the donors get tax deduction and capital gains avoided above that the exemption on spouse. Next one, I guess we talked about that. Next one, gifts of personal property. You might have stuff that's really valuable around you. Artwork, you might have collectibles, books, equipment, other items that are tangible property that could yield a significant price on the market. The thing with this, though, if you give something to charity, it's got gifts of personal property, tangible property. It's very important that it's professionally appraised, right? You can't just say, like, my Aunt Joe painted this picture and it's worth $50,000, right? You could get in trouble, big time trouble with the IRS. Not only does it need to be professionally appraised, but it needs to be appropriately appraised. So you can't have an appraiser whose main bread and butter is to appraise Beanie Babies, to come and appraise your artwork, right? Because the IRS will snatch that up real quick and send their own appraisal in, and it's guaranteed to be a lot less than what your Beanie Baby appraised it for. And not only will you be subject to the tax liability between the difference of the deduction you took and what is actually valuable as, it just muddles the whole gift up and just makes it unnecessarily complicated, okay? But yes, whatever you own tangible property can be given to a qualified charity. And another interesting part is a lot of times you can retain an interest in it. So you may give your art collection away, but you want it on your walls while you live, right? And then when you're dead, then the qualified charity can take hold of it, sell it, and then use it for their purposes, or keep it themselves and use it for their purposes, depending on, like in the case of artwork, if you gave to a museum, they're probably going to keep the art that you donated, right? So this is really good for people that have appreciated property, people that don't have heirs, or they don't have heirs that are interested in this property. Those are the donors that are the best match for this type of gift. Sometimes donors have heirs, but they own a piece of appreciated property that their heirs just simply do not want or they cannot use. These are the type of people that are the best type of donors to give of personal tangible property. The next one is gifts from retirement plans. This is very similar to giving, just like life insurance, okay? Just like with the life insurance, a donor can name a nonprofit as the beneficiary of a portion or all of your IRA, 401k, your pension, your brokerage account, so on and so forth. And I hope you're making sure that your individual accounts, from your checking accounts, saving accounts, your brokerage, your 401ks, your IRAs, that they're appropriately titled, meaning that the appropriate designations are in there, because that could be a whole mess with probate if the right people don't have the right names at the right spots. And that's a subject for another day. But same thing like life insurance, you can designate a qualified charity to be the recipient of a portion or the totality of an IRA, 401k, or other type of retirement plan account. Okay. And this type of gift is best used for anybody that has one, right? Anyone that has a 401k, an IRA, or other type of retirement account, and they have determined that their heirs do not need either do not need the money, or they want to make sure they move the most heavily taxable assets out of their estate, give that to a nonprofit, and leave property that's taxed favorably to their heirs, because it can become really a big pain in the ass sometimes to leave a gift of your retirement account to your heirs. It can subject them to unintentional taxes that they're not in a position to pay. Another one is an IRA rollover. It's also called a qualified charitable distribution. So here's the thing. When you reach, now it's 71 years old, the IRS requires you to start taking money out of your retirement account. The reason why is because they want to tax you on it, right? And if you don't take money out of your retirement accounts once you reach 71 years old, not only will you be taxed on the amount that you should have been, but you will also receive severe penalties for not withdrawing that money. There's a whole table that the IRS uses to calculate exactly what percentage you need to take out every year that you're 71 years old and older. But that's the way they do it. Here's the thing. If you don't need that income, and for whatever reason, either you don't need the cash, or receiving the cash would bump up your tax bracket in a way that would make it inconvenient for you to have that amount of income, what you can do is take that, what's called the required minimum distribution, and you can donate that to charity. You can make a gift of up to a year from your IRA to an eligible nonprofit. And again, the funds must be transferred directly. You can't withdraw them first and then give them to the charity. If you withdraw it first before giving it to the charity, you will be responsible for paying a tax on what you withdrew. And so this is how it works, right? You have your required minimum distribution, whereas the IRS, whereas that distribution would originally go to you and the IRS would take a piece of the pie for themselves, you get to bypass the IRS straight to the qualified charity, and you avoid the income tax. That's how the IRA rollover, or the qualified charitable distribution, works. This is great for a donor who does not need the additional income and wants to avoid double taxation on their minimum required distribution. Next stage, remember we talked about the 3 different types of gifts, right? Simple and outright gifts, gifts that pay you income, and gifts that protect assets. Now we're in the section of gifts that pay you back. Okay, this is where we get into a more complex giving stage, beginning with what's called a charitable gift annuity. Remember, before we talked about, I don't remember which slide we were on, but we mentioned the charitable gifts of appreciated securities. A charitable gift annuity allows a donor to transfer what's called an irrevocable gift of cash or securities to a nonprofit in exchange for a fixed payment for life. So what does that mean? You've heard the term annuity, I'm sure. Annuity is an insurance product, whereas when you buy life insurance, you're making a bet at the casino of life that you're gonna die much younger than you think you will. And insurance company is saying that, oh, no, 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 we think you're going to die you're going to live much longer than you think you will, and so we will insure you. For an annuity, you are making the bet that I am going to live for a lot longer than I think I am. And the insurance company is saying, oh, no, 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 we think you're going to die a lot sooner than you think you will. And so that's how annuities work. That's why they're able to give payments, because they're making a bet, although an intelligent bet, a data-driven bet, that your lifespan will be shorter than you think it will be. They provide what is called annuities, where whether you receive by giving them a lump sum of money today, you then start receiving distributions from that annuity either today or sometimes in the future for a certain amount of time. Charitable organizations can do the same thing. Okay, a charitable organization can create an annuity where you can put in a lump sum of money, either cash or securities. If you're doing it in securities, it makes sense to do an appreciated security in exchange for a fixed income payment for life. What's more is that this gift plan, it entitles you as a donor to make an immediate charitable, to get an immediate charitable deduction, but also at the end of the term, the entire balance of the annuity goes to the nonprofits so they can support their mission. So you can give today, receive a charitable deduction today, receive income payments for your life, and at your death, the balance of what you've transferred to the charity goes to them altogether. Now they're able to do this is good for them because charities are able to invest those proceeds and create and develop or generate investment income from the proceeds of your gift, and that's why they're able to pay. That's why they're able to pay an annuity to you, because they know that the gift that they get from you, the lump sum of the gift today, that they're able to grow into a bigger nest egg for themselves in the future. Okay, so this is how it works, right? You as the donor, you transfer that irrevocable gifts, and irrevocable, that's a tongue twister. Irrevocable means that once you make the gift, you can't take it back. That's the only way you can get that charitable deduction. It's got to be irrevocable. Woo! That's tough to say. I need to ask my speech therapist wife to help me. But you transfer that to the qualified charity. You fix payments for a term, and then the balance goes to charity after your death. This really works best for donors who want to make a gift but need retirement income, right? So if you're afraid of running out of money, but you want to make a gift, but you want to make sure that you've got some funds, that's a great way for you to make that gift and still enjoy retirement income that you know that you can bet on day in and day out. This is usually something that conservative donors like to use. And by conservative donors, I'm not talking about politically. I'm talking about a risk appetite, conservative within risk. People that are cash conscious, they're concerned about their own well-being or their spouse's needs as they age. Donors who are concerned about their children's retirement, they may also be interested in funding what's called a deferred for the children's benefit. But it all falls under this idea of an annuity that a charitable organization pays you as the donor until you die, and then the charitable organization receives the remaining balance. Next one I'm talking about is the pooled income fund. Pooled income fund is like a mutual fund, but for investments. It's not very popular, so I'm not going to spend much time, but it does exist. They're not used as much anymore. It essentially works as a mutual fund where donors come together to fund this fund that benefits a charitable organization. But like I said, it's not in great use right now. It does exist. It's not a favorite type of giving strategy. What's more, what I've seen kind of emphasized more recently is that of the donor advised fund. And for good reason. A donor advised fund is a very, very powerful tool that a donor can use to make significant gifts to charity. Now, I want to talk about the donor advice fund because um, you have to understand that donor, and I'm trying not to freak you out because the next thing I'm going to say, I'm going to qualify it. But giving in a donor advice fund means just that. You can make recommendations to the fund custodian that I'm recommending that the money that I put in this fund goes to this charity. Technically, they are not required to honor that, right? But here's the thing. People that hold donor advice funds or DAFs, they're people like Vanguard, Fidelity Charitable, there are other smaller ones. If they didn't do what you wanted them to do with the money that you're putting in the fund, they would quickly go out of business. So for all intents and purposes, what you put in a donor advice fund will go to what you say it should go to, or else they'll quickly be out of business, okay? But just to be clear, legally, they do not have to use your recommendation to the exact charity that you have recommended, but they do. Okay, how it works? A donor advice fund is a vehicle. It's established at a public charity. It allows donors to make charitable contributions, receive an immediate tax deduction, and then recommend grants from the fund over time. Donors can contribute to the fund as frequently as they like, and then they can recommend grants to their favorite charities, whatever it makes sense for them. What's great about donor advice funds, I'm gonna take a sip of water now, is that because they're held at such giants of financial institutions like Vanguard, Fidelity Charitable, Schwab Charitable, because they're held at places like this, these institutions have economies of scale in order for you to donate complex assets, okay? And those complex assets, I'm talking about like real estate, artwork, collectibles, things that might be very difficult for a grassroots organization to really receive a gift like that and turn it into cash in order for them to use. These organizations are able to send a broker that's able to appraise, the tangible value that you have, that's able to handle all that complex work and turn that into cash into your donor advice fund. So it's an extremely powerful tool to take the ability to make complex gifts to charity, simplify that into cash, and then start writing cash checks towards the organizations that are important. There are pros and cons to donor advice funds, and there are limits to what you can actually claim as a tax deduction. I believe, off the top of my head, I'm not 100%, but I believe it's like up to 60% of adjusted gross income that you can claim as a tax deduction. I will have to double check that to be certain, but it's not the total amount of the gift that you're able to deduct from your taxes. However, it is a powerful tool that donors, that non-affluent donors, mind you, are able to make really significant gifts through reduce tax burdens after windfall situations such as receiving an inheritance, selling a business, experiencing strong market returns. You can take an immediate tax deduction when you make a charitable contribution to your DAF, reducing your tax liability, and it allows you to recommend grants to your favorite charities over time. So you can effectively pre-fund years of giving with assets from a single high-income event. So it's an incredible tool that not only allows you to take care of complex assets, it also puts control of the funds in your hands so you can dole it out to organizations as you see fit. Instead of just saying like, here, all this money, and you figure it out, you can say, I'm writing this specific check for this specific organization for this project. Remember before I said that you can make, a lot of organizations allow you to create or to make a pledge that you can fund over several years. You cannot use a donor advised fund to make your pledge payments. That's one thing that you can't do, okay? Now we're moving into a more complex situation, a charitable remainder unit trust. A charitable remainder unit trust is a charitable trust that pays a percentage of its principal to the donor and or other beneficiaries that the donor can name for life for a term of up to 20 years or for a combination of both. So because this type of trust is reevaluated annually, you can actually put more money into the you can actually receive more payments from the trust because you can put more money in the trust, okay? So what happens is that after the trust terminates, the entire balance goes to the nonprofit. It's similar to a charitable gift annuity, except that a charitable gift annuity is fixed. You start out with one big payment and you can never add more into a gift, an annuity gift. But with a charitable remainder unit trust, you can year in, year out, increase your donation to that trust, thereby also increasing the percentage of the payment that you can receive yourself as a donor. So what does that look like? You, the donor, transfers assets, irrevocable assets to a trust, and to the trustee. The trustee pays you, the donor, payments for life, or beneficiaries payments for life. And at your death or the beneficiary's death, the assets within the trust goes to the qualified charity. Now, this is good for people that like flexibility. You can literally use just about any asset to fund a unit trust: cash, publicly traded stocks, bonds, closely held stock, a partnership interest, real estate, and you can tailor this trust to meet many financial or estate planning needs. Now, there's some words here that you may not be familiar with, because a lot of these issues are very much geared to the affluent class of donors who have significant complex assets. When you're talking about interests in business, I talked to an individual that had about like 50 different interests in, he had percentage of 50 different, he had interest in 50 different LLCs, different percentages ranging from single digits to double digits interest in them. And he was looking for a way to donate his interest in some of those LLCs to charity. So this individual was an extremely affluent a gentleman. He was a business owner. He had a lot of complex assets. This is not a simple planned giving, charitable giving tool. This is something for an individual that has a more complex financial situation that they're trying to use all their resources in order to provide for themselves and their loved ones while still making an impactful gift. And the same is for a charitable remainder annuity unit trust. An annuity unit trust allows a donor to, again, contribute the appreciated assets to the trust. They can and generate a fixed income stream, or they can defer. So they can defer or eliminate gains and reduce estate taxes. The charitable remainder annuity trust pays its beneficiaries a fixed amount based on the percentage of the initial value of the assets used to fund the trust. Payments can be made for the beneficiary's lifetime or for a term of up to 20 years or for a combination of both. So for this, no upfront capital gains taxes apply to the contributions. And after the annuity trust terminates, the balance of the remainder interest goes to the nonprofit to be used as the donor designated. So with these type of trusts, you as a donor can control exactly how the nonprofit organization actually uses the funds from it. And so the best donor, or the most appropriate, this is most appropriate for a donor that wants to make a major gift while retaining or increasing their income from the assets they contribute. This gift is even more attractive if you hold appreciated stocks or bonds and you want to avoid the capital gains cost of a sale. donor also prefers the stability of fixed income. That's who this type of strategy really benefits. Now, last section, gifts that protect assets, complex gifts. A charitable lead trust. A charitable lead trust is the exact opposite of a charitable remainder trust. So after a donor makes a gift, the charitable lead trust will pay income to the designated charity first. And it will do that to the charity for a certain amount of years throughout the donor's lifetime. And after that term expires, what's remaining in the asset, in the trust, is passed back either to the donor or the donor's designated beneficiary. So as a remainder trust benefits the donor first and the donor's heirs first, and then the remainder goes to the charity, a lead trust benefits first and the remainder benefits the donor and the donor's beneficiaries. So this is really good for donors who want to fund a gift today and transfer transfer significant wealth to the immediate generation in a tax advantage way. So like I said, a lot of these strategies are best used for people that are affluent donors that have significant wealth, that they would be facing a large tax liability if they tried to transfer it to the immediate generation. So charitable lead trusts are typically best for people that have at least $1 million of assets that they're meaning to fund in a gift, because these trusts can be very expensive to fund and to maintain. We talked about this before, but this is another thing that's very interesting because a lot of people, say, well, Marlon, I would love to give a significant gift, but I kind of need to be able to use my house and live there right now. You're able to make gifts and retain what's called a life estate. In a retained life estate, your donor transfers a property deed, whether it's your residence, a vacation home, farm, what have you. You can transfer it to a charity. And the agreement is written out in a way that you, the donor, retain the right to use, including if you have investment property, continue to rent out or live in the property for your life or for a term of years. In exchange, you, the donor, will receive an immediate income tax deduction based on the fair market value of the property minus the present value of the retained life estate. That's a whole financial calculation, but pretty much it's saying that you can receive a deduction for what the property is worth minus what the amount of time that you're using it, the value of that. So the donor, and while you are using the property or have access to the property, or still, if it's an investment property, still renting it out, what have you, while you retain that life interest, you have a responsibility of covering all the expenses, maintenance costs, and anything else associated with upkeep of the property during your lifetime. And this is really, this is similar to a gift of real estate, and it's best used for a prospect who wants to, or a donor who wants to retain the use of their home or their property for their lifetime, but does not need or want to include that property in their estate, in their estate for whatever reason, whether it's personal reasons, like your heirs don't need it, or you just don't want to have to deal with the tax implications of that. Okay. Charitable bargain sale is it's simple. It's kind of, I like to think of it that it kind of works like a discount bond, right? With a discount bond, if you're used to trading, you buy a bond at minus the face value of it, and you continue to receive the coupon payments, the interest payments all the time, and then when it matures, you get the full value of it, and you have received all the interest payments in between. It's a bargain that you make. You buy something at discount, and you, at the end, essentially get the full value of it. A charitable bargain sale kind of flips that to the charity, right? In the charitable bargain sale, you, the donor, could sell property to a nonprofit at an amount that's less than the property's fair market value, right? And so what happens is that you'll receive a charitable deduction equal to the difference between what the property is worth and what the actual sale price is. This can sometimes be more financially advantageous to the donor than selling the property, paying the taxes on the property, and then making an outright charitable gift from the proceeds of the sale, right? And then it also helps the charity to secure something of significant value at less than what its value and turn around and sell it at fair market value and really leverage that asset to support the cause, to support their mission. And so this is best used for a donor who faces significant capital gains issues and wants to receive a lump sum payment for the gift and a tax deduction right away. And that type of person is the right match for a charitable bargain sale. So we're wrapping up now. So really what issues matter the most to you, right? We talked about in the beginning, we started off talking about that you need to be purpose-driven and outcome-focused. All these strategies, they vary in complexity, they vary in effectiveness, they vary in tax efficiency methods. But I don't want you to get caught up in the how of all of these. Because if you get caught up that I want to make this type of gift, you might miss out on what's the best way to make a gift. So again, you want to be really crystal clear on what exactly it is you're trying to accomplish, right? You know, if it is that you're trying to move the needle forward, move the needle forward of justice by providing immediate emergency support to an organization of your choosing, that organization might need cash. And so you want to take into account that as you develop a gift mix, that you think about what the cash needs of an organization are, but even above what you're able to give with cash, to think also to the future and how you can sustain these organizations that are championing the causes that are important to you, how you can sustain them long term with that 91% of your wealth base, the assets that are not cash, right? You want to think about how you can impact these issues. What's your philosophy? What's the philosophy around your philanthropy? You want to know that you're giving effectively and efficiently as you can, and you want to know that your giving is making a difference. This is something doesn't occur in a vacuum. You know, I put together kind of an org chart of the team members that you kind of want on your team when you make these decisions, because charitable giving should really be part of your greater wealth strategy for it to have the impact that you want it to have without jeopardizing any of your financial obligations to yourself, your family, loved ones, and what have you, right? So you, as being the boss, you should be working with a wealth advisor to create comprehensive and strategic plans to help you with asset management, due diligence, and coordinating services. And it's important, especially because so much of this happens in the realm of the IRS, that you're working with a competent CPA to help you work your tax and financial statements, preparation, bookkeeping, and more. And you want to make sure that you're also working with an estate attorney that's able to draw up documents, whether it's your will, trust, or your codicil, and other estate planning documents that make sure that the gift that you're trying to make, it does exactly what you want to do, what you want it to do, and how you want it to. So when you gather together your investment arm, your tax arm, your legal arm, and you put together your charitable strategy arm, that's when you're in a position where you're able to live well today, but you're also to do significant good for the causes that are important to you. And so that's kind of an overview of proactive gift planning and just how you can definitely give transformatively to causes that are important to you, even if you're not a multi-bazillionaire. It is possible. There's a lot that we talked about. A lot of it was heavy, a lot of it's technical, and I literally just scratched the surface. So if you have any questions right now, let's go ahead and take questions. Go ahead and leave a comment either in the comment box, or you can go ahead and tweet me at Wesh Financial, and I can try to answer the questions. If you have questions afterwards, go ahead and still leave those questions in the comment section, and I'll come back and look at those and see if I can answer any of those questions for you. This is a lot. This is a lot of information, and if you need any help in really disseminating and figuring out what's appropriate for you, feel free to reach out to me. Let me put up the link for you to book a time with me if you have questions on how to use this in your greater wealth strategy. But myfamilymoneyplan.com/talk. And we can get on the phone and we can talk about, whatever you want to talk about, your finances, how philanthropy, charitable giving works in that. I just want you to really feel empowered to really just use all the resources at your disposal to effect the changes that you want to see happen. So reach out to me, and I'm happy to have that conversation with you. I'm thinking about you guys. It's been a rough week, and I'm afraid the worst is not necessarily behind us. Stick close to your loved ones, stick close to your communities, and try to remember that as we band together and we use all the resources at our disposal, we can really put together a machine that can affect change in a really transformative way. And your finances, ways you can do that, and you don't have to wait tomorrow to do that. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that for you. You're in my thoughts and prayers, and I will see you next time on Friday. All right, take care.